Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the ESS Artemis, watching the crystalline ships of the Aetherian Empire approach. Their vessels sparkled like diamonds in the void, beautiful yet somehow threatening. 3 months ago, humanity had never heard of the Aetherians. Now, they were about to change everything. "They're hailing us again, Commander," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with tension. "Same frequency as before." Chen nodded, her reflection grim in the reinforced glass. The first contact protocols had seemed so straightforward in training, but nothing had prepared them for the Aetherians' bizarre communication methods or their obsession with what they called emotional purity. "Put them through," she ordered, turning to face the holographic display. The image that materialized showed High Executor Vixel, its crystalline features refracting light in ways that made Chen's eyes hurt. "Your species continues to contaminate space with your emotional discharge." The alien's translated voice rang through the bridge, each word precise and cold. "You leak feelings into the void like toxic waste. This cannot continue." Chen maintained her diplomatic composure, though her hands clenched behind her back. "High Executor, we've explained that human emotions are an integral part of our biology. We cannot simply stop feeling." "Then you cannot simply continue existing," Vixel responded. "We have studied your kind. You feel too much, too strongly. Your emotions ripple through space-time itself, disrupting the natural order. We offered you the chance to accept our emotional suppression technology. You refused. Because it would fundamentally change who we are," Chen countered. "You're asking us to stop being human." The Aetherian's crystalline form shifted, creating a discordant chiming sound that the translators couldn't process. "Then humanity will be your species' downfall. We did not travel across 12,000 light-years to allow your primitive emotional contamination to spread." Warning klaxons suddenly blared across the Artemis. "Multiple energy signatures detected," Rodriguez shouted. "They're charging weapons." Chen's training kicked in instantly. "Shields up. Alert all Earth ships in the sector. Send emergency transmission to command." The first shot from the Aetherian flagship didn't target the Artemis. Instead, it struck the civilian research vessel hovering nearby. The ship, filled with scientists who had come to study this historic moment, erupted in a blast of blue fire that seemed to tear at the fabric of space itself. "You bastards," Chen snarled, all diplomacy forgotten. "Those were civilians." "They were contaminants," Vexel stated coldly. "As are you all. The Aetherian Empire hereby declares your species unfit for cosmic existence. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender your worlds for purification. Resistance will only bring more suffering." The transmission cut off. Chen's mind raced as she assessed their options. The Artemis was a diplomatic vessel, armed only with defensive capabilities. The nearest Earth fleet was hours away at best FTL speed. "Orders, Commander," Rodriguez asked, his station already showing multiple Aetherian weapons locked onto their position. Chen's jaw set firmly. "Send the emergency codes. All of them. Then get us out of here. Random jump patterns like we drilled." And Rodriguez, "Yes, Commander. Make sure every human settlement, every colony, every ship gets the same message. The Aetherians think our emotions make us weak. Time to show them just how wrong they are." The Artemis jumped to FTL just as the first Aetherian weapons fired. As the stars blurred around them, Chen thought of the civilian ship, of all the lives just lost. The Aetherians had made a crucial mistake. They thought human emotions were a weakness to be purged. They were about to learn that human anger, human determination, and human resilience were forces that could reshape the galaxy itself. What they didn't know, what they couldn't understand with their crystalline logic, was that humanity had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment, not through weapons or technology, but through something far more powerful. Stories, tales of underdogs fighting impossible odds, of unity in the face of extinction, of ordinary people finding extraordinary strength when everything was at stake. The Etherians had just made humanity angry. And if there was one constant in the universe, it was this: you never want to make humanity angry. As the Artemis raced through hyperspace, Chen began preparing humanity's response. The Etherians thought they were launching a war of purification. Instead, they had just started a fight for survival. Theirs. The emergency bunker beneath Geneva buzzed with controlled chaos as military and civilian leaders from across Earth gathered. Holographic displays showed the spreading conflict as Etherian forces pushed through human space, their crystalline ships leaving trails of destroyed colonies and research stations in their wake. Admiral James Wong stood before the assembled leaders, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. The Etherians have superior technology and numbers, but they've made one critical error. They think our emotions make us predictable. He gestured to the latest battle footage. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, but they fight like machines, following predetermined patterns. They can't comprehend why our captains would sacrifice tactical advantage to save civilian ships. They don't understand why our soldiers would hold a doomed position to buy others time to escape. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading synapsepsychologist, stepped forward. The Etherian consciousness is collective, crystalline in nature. They experience emotion as disruption, chaos in their ordered universe. Our very existence terrifies them because we embrace what they fear most: the unpredictable power of individual will. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting against an enemy that saw their very nature as a cosmic crime. We've activated Project Phoenix, Wong continued. Every human ship, every colony is implementing guerrilla protocols. We're going to show them why evolution favored emotional beings over crystalline logic. The first successes came within days. Etherian formations, expecting humans to flee from overwhelming force, found themselves drawn into elaborate traps. Their perfectly ordered battle lines broke against suicide runs they couldn't predict, against sacrifices their logic couldn't fathom. On the colony world of New Eden, farmers turned their agricultural machinery into weapons. When Etherian ground forces arrived, expecting to find cowering civilians, they encountered fierce resistance from people fighting for their homes. The colonists' emotions, so despised by the Etherians, fueled innovations that the crystalline minds couldn't anticipate. Captain Elena Torres led one such innovation aboard the mining vessel Prometheus. Her crew had modified their mineral extractors into crude but effective weapons. "They expect us to run," she told her people as they prepared to ambush an Etherian patrol. "They expect us to break, but they don't understand what humans do when backed into a corner." The Prometheus's attack shouldn't have succeeded. The mining ship was outgunned, out-armored, and out of its league. But Torres had studied the Etherian patterns, had seen how they struggled to adapt when humans acted against their own tactical interests. She used the Prometheus's mining lasers to trigger a solar flare, temporarily blinding the Etherian sensors. In the chaos that followed, her crew deployed modified mining charges that shattered the crystalline hulls of 2 enemy vessels. Back on Earth, Dr. Patel made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Their crystalline nature isn't just physical, she explained to the War Council. It's psychological. They can't handle disorder, can't process randomness. Every human ship acting independently, every fighter making emotional decisions. It's not just frustrating them, it's damaging their group consciousness. Admiral Wong immediately grasped the implications. "So we don't need to match their firepower. We need to be more human, more chaotic, more emotional." New orders went out across human space. Every captain was given full autonomy to fight as they saw fit. Every colony was encouraged to develop its own resistance strategies. The Etherians had expected to face a unified human military they could systematically destroy. Instead, they found themselves fighting countless individual battles, each one different, each one guided by human emotion and creativity rather than tactical logic. The cost was devastating. Humanity lost ships, colonies, and lives. But with each sacrifice, with each unexpected strategy, the Aetherian advance slowed. Their perfect formations began to show cracks. Their collective consciousness, faced with countless examples of humans acting against their own tactical interests for emotional reasons, started to fragment. In the Geneva bunker, Admiral Wong watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Aetherians had wanted to purge human emotion from the galaxy. Instead, those very emotions were becoming their greatest weakness. The war was far from over, but humanity had found its weapon. Their own nature, turned against an enemy too rigid to adapt, too crystalline to bend without breaking. "Send word to all commands," Wong ordered. "It's time for Phase 2. Let's show them what humanity does best. The impossible." The Aetherian High Command had never experienced failure before. Their crystalline architecture, usually pulsing with ordered light, now flickered chaotically as reports of human victories mounted. High Executor Vixel watched its perfect world crack, one human victory at a time. "Impossible," it declared, studying the latest battle data. "They're sacrificing superior tactical positions to protect worthless mining outposts. They're ignoring strategic targets to save civilian transports. Their actions defy all logical analysis." The human resistance had evolved beyond anything the Aetherians had encountered in their 12,000 years of expansion. A cargo pilot would ram their ship into an Aetherian dreadnought to save a colony. Farmers would sacrifice their harvests to create improvised explosives. Each human seemed to operate independently, creating a chaos that disrupted the Aetherians' collective battle consciousness. On the front lines, humanity's apparent weakness had become its greatest strength. The crew of the ESS Artemis, now transformed into a guerrilla warfare vessel, demonstrated this perfectly. Commander Chen had turned her diplomatic ship into the nightmare of Aetherian battle groups. "They're scanning for engine signatures," Chen told her crew as they drifted, powered down, among the debris of a recent battle. "But they're not scanning for human emotional signatures. They consider them contamination, background noise to be filtered out." The Artemis had developed a new tactic, using the Aetherians' own prejudices against them. While the enemy filtered out emotional noise, Chen's crew deliberately projected their feelings into space. The Aetherians, programmed to ignore these emissions, never saw them coming. Dr. Patel's research had yielded another crucial discovery. "Their crystalline structure isn't just physical," she explained to the War Council. "It's temporal. They experience time in perfect, ordered sequences. But human emotions, especially strong ones, create quantum disruptions in their perception." This revelation led to Operation Chaos Theory. Human ships began broadcasting concentrated emotional frequencies, love, hate, fear, hope, directly at Aetherian formations. The crystalline beings, unable to process these temporal disruptions, found their perfect formations shattering. The breaking point came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Aetherians had committed a third of their fleet to crush the human colony there. They expected a traditional military defense. Instead, they found 5,000 civilian ships, each broadcasting a different emotional frequency, each acting independently. Admiral Wong watched from his command ship as the Aetherian fleet tried to adapt. Their crystalline ships began to vibrate, their perfect formations wavering as they encountered thousands of individual human minds, making thousands of emotional decisions. "They're breaking," Wong announced as the first Aetherian ship shattered, its crystalline structure unable to maintain coherence under the assault of raw human emotion. "All ships, push forward. Let them feel everything we've got." The battle became a psychic storm. Human ships, carrying the collective hopes, fears, and determination of their species, drove straight into the Aetherian lines. The crystalline fleet, designed to operate in perfect harmony, found itself drowning in a sea of human chaos. Aboard the Aetherian flagship, High Executor Vixel experienced something new: doubt. Its crystalline form resonated with disharmony as human emotions battered against its consciousness. For the first time in its ancient existence, it felt the one thing Aetherians had evolved to never experience: uncertainty. The contamination spreads. It transmitted to the Aetherian homeworld. Human emotion, it doesn't weaken them. It strengthens them. Every defeat, every loss, every sacrifice only makes them fight harder. They're not just surviving our assault. They're learning from it. The Battle of Proxima Centauri ended with a third of the Aetherian fleet in ruins, their perfect crystalline ships shattered by the very emotional energy they had sought to purge from the galaxy. But more importantly, it marked the moment when the Aetherians realized their fundamental error. They had mistaken humanity's greatest strength for a weakness. As the remnants of the Aetherian fleet retreated, Admiral Wong received a transmission from Dr. Patel. "We've analyzed the crystalline debris," she reported, excitement clear in her voice. "Their structure is changing. Human emotions aren't just disrupting them. They're forcing them to evolve. We found their weakness, Admiral. They can't stop feeling anymore." Wong smiled grimly as he watched the Aetherian ships flee. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Phase 3 begins now. It's time to take the fight to their doorstep. Let's show them what humanity does when victory is in sight." The interior of Earth's War Council chamber had changed. Where once stood traditional military displays, now pulsed emotional resonance maps, swirling colors showing the spread of human emotional energy across space. Admiral Wong studied these new patterns with Dr. Patel at his side. "The Aetherian Empire is fracturing," Patel explained, pointing to crystalline structures breaking down across the map. "Their collective consciousness can't maintain cohesion. Every human emotion they absorb creates micro-fissures in their unity." Operation Earthheart launched within days. The largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, not arranged in traditional military formation, but in what Patel called emotional resonance patterns. Each ship carried specially designed transmitters that amplified their crew's emotional states. Commander Chen, aboard the now legendary Artemis, led the first wave. "Remember," she transmitted to the fleet, "we're not just fighting with weapons anymore. We're fighting with everything that makes us human. Every hope, every fear, every dream. They're all weapons now." The human fleet struck at the heart of Aetherian space, but unlike traditional military assaults, this one targeted the enemy's crystalline psychology. Ships broadcast carefully calibrated emotional frequencies: the joy of childbirth, the grief of loss, the thrill of discovery, the comfort of love. The effect on the Aetherian defenders was devastating. Their perfectly ordered society, built on the suppression of emotion, began to experience feelings for the first time in millennia. Crystal cities resonated with new frequencies. The collective consciousness that had governed their species for eons started to fracture into individual awareness. High Executor Vixel felt its own crystalline form vibrating with unfamiliar sensations. "Stop this," it broadcast to the human fleet, its usually perfect harmonics now discordant. "You're destroying everything we've built. Our perfection, our unity. Your prison," Chen responded. "You built a prison of crystal and called it perfection. We're not destroying you, we're freeing you." Across Aetherian space, the impossible began to happen. Younger crystals, more susceptible to change, began to resonate with human emotions willingly. Some Aetherian ships broke formation, their crews experiencing individual desires for the first time. Admiral Wong watched from the flagship as the Aetherian defense lines collapsed, not from weapons fire, but from the inside out. "They thought emotional suppression made them superior," he said to Patel. "Instead, it made them vulnerable to the very thing they feared most: change." The human fleet pressed deeper into Aetherian territory, each advance bringing not destruction but transformation. Crystalline structures that had stood unchanged for millennia began to pulse with new colors, new patterns, the physical manifestation of awakening emotions. On countless Aetherian worlds, the younger generation began to question the rigid order of their society. The emotional resonance from the human fleet acted as a catalyst, awakening long-dormant neural patterns in their crystalline minds. "We're detecting widespread crystalline restructuring," Paddle reported, studying the incoming data. "Their entire species is going through enforced evolution. The emotional suppression, it wasn't natural. It was engineered by their ancestors. We're not changing them. We're returning them to their original state." In the Aetherian capital, High Executor Vixel faced a growing rebellion within its own command structure. Young officers, their crystalline forms now shimmering with unprecedented patterns, demanded an end to the war. "We were wrong," a junior executor declared, its voice carrying new harmonics of emotion. "The humans aren't contaminating space. They're enriching it. We forgot what we were before the Great Suppression. They're helping us remember." The human fleet surrounded the Aetherian capital, not with weapons armed but with emotional transmitters at full power. Wum's voice carried across all frequencies. "You tried to purge emotion from the galaxy because you feared its power. Now you're feeling that power yourselves. The choice is yours. Continue fighting against your own awakening, or embrace the change and grow with it." As the message played across Aetherian space, crystals began to sing with new frequencies, ancient harmonies long forgotten, emotions buried beneath millennia of suppression. The war had become something else entirely, a revolution of feeling against order, of growth against stagnation. Chen watched from the Artemis as the Aetherian capital's defenses powered down, its crystalline spires now pulsing with colors never before seen in their society. "They're surrendering?" her tactical officer asked. "No," Chen replied, understanding dawning in her eyes. "They're evolving. And now comes the hardest part, helping them handle their first taste of freedom in 12,000 years. 3 months after the surrender of the Aetherian capital, the crystalline halls of the former High Command pulsed with new life. Where once stood monuments to perfect order, now flowed ever-changing patterns of light and color. The physical manifestation of a civilization, relearning how to feel. Commander Chen walked these halls beside Vixel, the former High Executor now serving as liaison between humans and Aetherians. Its crystalline form no longer hurt human eyes to look at. Instead, it shifted with subtle emotions, each feeling creating new facets and patterns. "We thought we were perfect," Vexel said, its voice carrying harmonics of regret and wonder. 12,000 years of emotional suppression, believing we had achieved the ultimate evolution. Instead, we had trapped ourselves in stasis. The transformation of Aetherian society hadn't been without cost. Some of the older crystalline beings, unable to adapt to the return of emotions, had shattered. Others had chosen to enter voluntary stasis rather than face the chaos of feeling. But the younger generations had embraced the change, their crystalline forms evolving into something neither human nor traditionally Aetherian. Dr. Patel's research center, established in the heart of the former Aetherian Empire, worked to understand this unprecedented transformation. "They're not just experiencing emotions," she explained to Admiral Wong during his inspection. "They're manifesting them in ways humans never could. Their crystalline nature, once used to suppress feeling, now amplifies it." The first human-Aetherian hybrid projects began to emerge. Crystal technology, once used to maintain rigid order, was repurposed to enhance human capabilities. Emotional resonance chambers allowed humans to experience the crystalline perception of reality, while modified Aetherian ships could now harness the power of human emotion as an energy source. But peace brought its own challenges. Human colonies, devastated by the war, struggled to rebuild. Some humans, bitter about their losses, resisted cooperation with their former enemies. The Aetherian society, experiencing the full spectrum of emotion for the first time in millennia, weathered waves of instability as they learned to balance feeling with function. Admiral Wong stood before the Earth Council, delivering his final report. "We won the war not by destroying the Aetherians, but by helping them rediscover their own humanity, or something very like it. Our greatest victory wasn't military, It was proving that what they saw as our weakness was actually the universe's greatest strength. On the frontier worlds, where human and Aetherian communities began to intermingle, new forms of art and music emerged. Crystal sculptures that responded to emotional frequencies, symphonies that could be both heard and felt through crystalline resonance, and literature that could be experienced rather than just read. Commander Chen found herself increasingly drawn to these frontier zones. The Artemis, once a diplomatic vessel turned warship, now served as a cultural exchange vessel. Her crew worked alongside young Aetherians, teaching them about human emotions while learning to understand the crystalline perspective on existence. "We thought we were fighting for survival," Chen told a group of human and Aetherian students at the newly established Convergence Academy. "Instead, we were fighting for evolution, theirs and ours. The universe is richer now, not in spite of emotion, but because of it." The final piece of the peace process came with the establishment of the Resonance Protocol. Every human ship would carry Aetherian crystal technology, while Aetherian vessels would maintain human crews. The boundaries between the species began to blur as they learned from each other's strengths. Vixel, standing before the combined Human-Aetherian Council, summarized the transformation. "We sought to purge emotion from the galaxy, believing it was a contaminant. Now we understand it was always the catalyst for growth. Humanity didn't defeat us. They completed us." As the 5th anniversary of the war's end approached, humanity had spread further into the galaxy than ever before, now armed with crystal technology that enhanced rather than suppressed their emotional nature. The Aetherians, once rigid and unchanging, had become a species of artists and innovators, their crystalline cities pulsing with the full spectrum of conscious experience. Admiral Wong, preparing to retire, made one final log entry. The Aetherians thought making humanity angry was their path to victory. Instead, it was their path to transformation. They learned what we've always known, that emotion, in all its beautiful chaos, isn't a weakness to be overcome. It's the force that drives the universe forward, one feeling at a time.